I will try to speak about elderly, a problem which is concerning me very strongly. But it not be an exhaustive lecture. Only I make a focus on the original papers we have implemented in France these last years. France, as many countries in Europe, had to cope with very different problems these last 70 years. In 1947, in France, Social Security was created. And it was a time of the end of the Second World War. And the fertility was very important at that time. But the people had to face with very hard living conditions, and the country was to rebuild. So balneol therapy was very important to adults to maintain in working. And it was also very important for children because there was very few drugs, particularly antibiotics. And the living conditions were hard. And balneology was very useful at that time for children. After 2000, the situation was very different. The fertility had strongly decreased, but the life expectancy had increased with a greatest number of elder persons. During all the 19th century and the first half of the 20th century, the life expectancy was unchanged. At the end of the Second World War, life expectancy in France was very close to life expectancy at the end of the French Revolution. We know that life expectancy is now very important. At birthday, it's about 85 years for a woman and 80 years for a man. And at 16.5 years, life expectancy shows the same difference between men and women. But this is global life expectancy. But if we consider life expectancy without disability, we see that men and women become more equal and that there is an important shift between life expectancy global and life expectancy without disabilities. Life expectancy, when the disability is not a severe one, is very close to global life expectancy. But when disability is more severe, of course, life expectancy is reduced. So this points the importance to reduce disability. In this paper, I will show some peculiarities of usual balneological treatments for elder persons, and also some peculiarities related to a more gerontologic approach. The reasons to have a thermal treatment are very different according to your age. For the children in our country, the reasons are mainly for dermatology and respiratory conditions. After 60 years, the main reason is musculoskeletal condition. We know that balneotherapy is able to improve disability, and this has been demonstrated in musculoskeletal conditions as osteoarthritis, chronic back pain, for example, with an improvement of pain, disability, quality of life, functional independence. And this has been very showed as an important issue to prevent or to improve frailty. venous chronic insufficiency, respiratory conditions, and skin condition are also improved. But we have concerning elder person to consider some technical condition. To implement a good treatment, they need to have a sufficient motility and orientation to use the thermal care facilities. They need sufficient independence for undressing and dressing. We have to be cautious to a particular skin fragility, to the risk of falls. And this is very important, as we know that in the population of persons taking the water after 65 years, about 1/3 of them had fallen at least once a time during the previous year. They have also to have an acceptable sphincter control. But during this treatment for musculoskeletal condition or other, we have also to consider associated morbidities, such as overweight, dietetic errors, insufficient physical activity, and sedentary lifestyle, which are able to be improved by educational programs. About gerontologic issue, I will mainly discuss 3 points: frailty, cognitive disorders, and the problem of helpers who need to be helped. Frailty. An elder person can be either a robust person with no or few disability, fully independent, living at home, or at the contrary, a dependent person without sufficient ability to be independent, and in many cases, with impossibility to continue to live at home. Between these two situations, there is an intermediary situation, which is frailty. During frailty, abilities are reduced. Independence in activities of daily living can be also reduced. Life at home can become difficult, but this situation is reversible. And it is very important time, because in a country as ours, the cost of dependency, the financial and human cost, is very important. It is impossible to give a figure for the human cost, but for the financial cost, it has been calculated that dependency costed about 25 billions every year to the country. And if we could implement prevention, efficient prevention, we could save 10 billions every year. So the issue is very important. Two studies assessed the risk of frailty in two populations of patients taking the water. In a big population of more than 1,000 people age of 65 or more, and in the smallest population of about 200 age from 75 and more. And we can see that after 60 years, most of the patients treated in the thermal care facilities are pre-frail. But after 75, most of the patients are frail, and pre-frail or frail is determined according to the number of criteria which are present in the patient. The study about the smallest population of 200 people of 65 and over showed that the main criteria were the metabolic, the lack of energy, and the loss of interest. Metabolic, capacity of effort, and cognitive problem. The geriatric assessment was showed that in this patient, it was the cognitive dimension which was the most involved, and particularly the clock drawing test was only normal in 61% of the patient. Cognitive drawing test is very simple. You ask to a person to make a drawing of a clock showing a particular hour. And some persons are unable to have such a design. We have shown in several studies, most of them controlled, that it was possible to increase significantly the level of physical activity after educational programs delivered during thermal treatment. And this improvement was assessed at 1 year. And in most cases, the patients were able to reach the level of physical activity which is recommended by the World Health Organization, WHO. And in a randomized control study, which assessed using a connective device the level of physical activity, we could observe that the time spent in front of TV or computer screen was significantly reduced. And this showed that sedentary lifestyle was able to be improved by education. We could observe also that the education delivered during the thermal treatment was able to modify the diet of the patient with a better use of lipids, the consumption of more fish, more fruit, more vegetables, and more water. We have tested also the ability to deliver during a thermal treatment a program of Alzheimer prevention, the Multi-Intervention Alzheimer Prevention Trial MAPT program, which has been implemented also worldwide under the patronage of WHO. And this program was made of sessions to learn diet, to learn physical activity, and to implement cognitive stimulation. And it was showed that such a program was able to interest about 1/3 of the patients in age to be included. And this person who implemented the program showed a very high level of satisfaction and a particularly high level of compliance to the workshops. And to finish, we had a reflection about the family helpers. And this is a very crucial issue for neurodegenerative disorders, such as Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease. Particularly Alzheimer's disease because the patients lose to have emotional relations with helpers. And for the helper, it's a physical and mental burden very important. And they need respite. And we could offer in thermal care facilities respite stays, active respite stays for the helpers, which can be used to implement thermal care, to improve pain abilities and reduce anxiety of this person, but also to implement educational programs to favor the treatment and the behavior of the persons who are taking care of such persons. But in resorts where exist gerontologic facilities, it could be easy to implement program for the patient, and a day program treatment in gerontologic facility care would be a good issue to maintain the abilities of the patient. And also, in such a program, we would be in ability to offer adapted accommodation, because some patients with a neurodegenerative disease are not able to live in ordinary accommodation. This program has been studied and was able to be implemented in a French resort, but for human reasons, it was not, and I think it was a pity. In conclusion, we can think that elderly offers to biology a very strong issue for public health. And mainly biology is a matter of personal health improvement. But with gerontologic issues, we are entering in public health. We know that biology is efficient to maintain abilities. We know that biology is able to offer time to assess and implement programs for frailty, for cognitive stimulation, to improve physical activity and reduce sedentary lifestyles. And also, we could, I think, help the helpers. Yeah, we are very, very close to the place where the great Latin poet Ovidius died 20 centuries ago. Ovidius was a poet of pleasure and love. He was not very interested in elderly. So I have to choose a French poet of the previous century, Saint-Jean-Perse. And as we can see, the reality is better seen by the poets than by the politicians. Thank you for your attention.
Some technical issues first. I have to announce clearly that all the sessions are registered. There are also colleagues online. So all the questions, all the comments have to be done only to the microphone, because our colleagues from online have to hear our presentations. And also for recording our session, it is necessary to have sound and to speak with your microphone. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Roch, the president of ISMH, for opening this session. I remember about music that Cat Stevens had a song called Morning Has Broken. Some of you can remember it. I dare to say thank you to Professor Roch, because he was the ones who broken the ice. So we can consider already our session started, and allow me to present the next presenter at this first session, our colleagues and friend, Professor Mufid Zeki Karagüle from Istanbul. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Olga. Good morning, everyone. It is, of course, a great pleasure for me to greet you this morning after a long time for me. It was nearly 5 years ago, the last Congress I have been attending. And thank you, all the organizers, namely Olga, Konstantin, and Professor Onese, inviting me to this unique balneological place. And thank you also, Dr. Konstantin, that advising me to give a lecture about balneology, past and future. I was glad enough to accept this because I have been involved in the past ISMH activities, but concerning future, it is more problematic because I am not good in foretailing. So what I will share with you today is mainly based on my experience, my thoughts, and my perspectives for the future. Being in a ISMH Congress, we should be all familiar with this man. Do everybody know him? Does anyone knows him? Really? He is Dr. Fortescue Fox, the founder of ISMH. And this book has been already published in the beginning of the 20th century in the 1913, so more than 100 years ago. And after publishing this textbook, a kind of textbook in 1913, he has launched or established or founded ISMH in 1921, which we have been celebrating 2 years ago in the ISMH Congress that I was not able to attend. Interestingly, he later formed another organization, this time International Committee on Rheumatism in 1927. And also he became the first president of this association. And this association evolved to International League of Associations for Rheumatology, ILER, which is too much active at the moment in the rheumatological field. My past in ISMH actually started in Budapest, Heavis Congress of ISMH, goes back to more than 20 years now. And in this picture, the executive committee that have been elected in this Congress is being, and you are all familiar with Tamás, Professor Pratzel. We lost him last year. That time he was the president of ISMH, me and Paul Gerhard from Hungary. And this was one of the more effective Congress of ISMH, which was organized by our Hungarian colleagues. And later, that time, the ISMH Congresses were being held in every 4 years, which is a long distance between the two Congresses. And when looking, searching for past, I have found this quotation that present is resulted by what we have done yesterday, not today. And this is our famous Istanbul Congress in 2006. And the theme is the same. And my colleague Dönmez is also with us. So it is now, again, about 20 years ago. I am sure some of you have been attending this Congress and also some hammam sessions in Istanbul. And thanks to the Romanian colleagues that we are happy to gather again after the last ISMH Congress in Romania, which was held in Bucharest in 2016. And they were so successful, and they were they had the courage enough to organize this one. And this is the Balneology today. What we can see in this picture is, on the first line, most people are the past president, so representing the past. But we have also young colleagues to be optimistic in future, also in this room. And here are the main areas of the Congress, which is hoped to be presented in this Congress. And we are here today for Balneology, and where is the future? So the future will be resulted by what we are doing today, not tomorrow. So I hope we will do strong enough things to develop Balneology future during these days of the Congress. And this is the Congress book picture. I put the attendance and lecturers' flags on this picture. Of course, we are here in Romania. I come from Turkey. We have Hungarian colleagues and Serbian colleagues, Greek colleagues, Italians, of course, Spain, as always, a big group. Portugal, but I have learned that Pedro is missing, but it was in the program. And France, of course. And it's good that we have from Northern Africa, Morocco colleagues. And we have also representatives from Japan, Nigeria, United States, and Cuba. You may ask me why you put the flags in that row. This is what I have done it, how and why. Interestingly, this is the map of the Roman Empire in the beginning of the 1st century. And we are all familiar, of course, the Romans were the ones who spread this thermal tradition to the places where they have been. And still the ruins, the buildings from that time are being existing. On your left side, we call it Pasha Ilıcası in Turkish, but in Roman time it was Al-Yanawi. And this pool is about at least 2,000 years old. I don't know the fume is also as old as the water. And on the back, I was supposed to be me. Unfortunately, these ruins are not visitable at the moment because they are now under the water of a dam that have been built there, unfortunately. But in the United Kingdom, in Bath, sometimes I call Bath as a Mecca of balneology. But in England, you know, there is no scientific activities in balneology, but they have a very well presented old Roman bath in Bath, which is now acting as a museum. And the terminology, therme and balnea, comes from originally Greek words for hot and balneum. or bathing, and also in the Latin, nearly the same words. And these are two other examples of the old Roman terme. And can you guess in which country these are existing? I'm sure you have also in your country such ruins. On the left side, it is in the central Anatolia, Turkey, Basilica Terma, or as we say, Sarıkaya Ilıca. And on the right, it is in Croatia, Aqua Iase, or as they say, Varaždinske Toplice. And you see, they still well presented old Roman terme buildings. And of course, you have in Romania. I took this example. I hope it's a good example to present, if you agree, Olga and Konstantin. Yeah. And we are in a very specific balneological place, very unique place in Tekirdağ. And this tradition this time comes from the natural sea and lake water and the mud, original local balneological sources. And I'm sure you are also familiar with this expression of Lucas Caranar the Elder about the interpretation of the fermentation of yacht, which is a good description of how balneology, which was scientifically have shown before me by the president of ISMH. And this was, of course, for health at the first line, for hygiene, relaxation, recreation, holiday, regeneration, or whatever you say. And not only bathing, drinking was also included, in fact, in a lesser extent, in this tradition. And these are also all description of this tradition. On the left side, it is onsen, Japan. Is our Japan colleagues are here? And on the right side, as we say, kaplıca or ılıca in Turkey, are very good descriptions of how this tradition is being practiced. And this is me practicing. We are, in fact, all familiar with these experiences. Soaking in a hot spring water pool, sitting in a warm jacuzzi, taking a hot bath at home in the hot tub, and so on. So this is why we do feel such experiences after a hot bath. One of the best explanations of these physiological changes, in fact, this is nearly more than 10 years of publication. And in this article, the colleagues explains why a hot tub bath causes such a feelings. And they say that it evokes well-known physiological changes directly involved at first thermoregulatory cooling, because the body in the water gains temperature, and after the bathing, you have to adapt this experience changes. But at the same time, it may alter or modulate neural circuits, controlling cognitive function, mood, including serotogenic circuits. And this is very important part, activation of temperature-activated transient receptor potentials, so-called TRP ion channels, and mainly TRPV3 and TRPV4. And these receptors are active in the non-noxious thermal range of 27 to 42. And later, subsequent activation of the subpopulation of brain serotonergic neurons. And I would like to remind you that there is a relation between baiting and these TRPs, as we call. And in 2021, David Julius and Adam Potapotian, American scientists, they won the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine in 2021. And they were active in the discoveries of receptors for temperature and touch, mechanisms by which we sense heat, cold, touch, and chemical substances or irritants. And the core discovery is the TRP ion channels for temperature and touch. And in fact, in a water immersion, because of the work of these TRPs, we feel the temperature, we are influenced by the temperature, pressure, viscosity of the water, and Archimedes' law, buoyancy. So we are having more information about why such a tradition, which in fact goes back till to the beginning of humanity, not only Romans, but Romans were the most influencers of the history. And to put it in a simple way, we have physical properties. We have these physical properties in every water. So the difference, if there are, comes from the chemical composition of the water we soak in. But in any case, these physical properties are being affecting on our body, and we have chemical ingredients, namely the minerals, and these minerals are the most physiological ones that we need in our life for the usual physiological activity. We have ions, gases, the undissolved substances, and we know very less about organic substances in the balneological water, mud. And now we may say, maybe the right word, I may say fashion about the biota of the body and biota of the water, as we call it, hydrobiome. But we are at the very beginning of such studies and scientific activities in this matter. So we have been using this terminology, balneology, and what I talk about balneology, nobody in this room could say that, oh, what is it? But I ask myself, what is balneology? And as a scientific activist, if I may say, I should find the answer in the scientific databases. And what is the most effective scientific database? It is PubMed, or National Library of Medicine's data, United States located. And they have medical subject headings. And in these medical subject headings, balneology is included. and an updated definition, 2024. And this is not so visible. I put it down on the more seeable, if I may say, way. So they describe balneology as therapy by various hot or warm baths in natural mineral waters, spas or cures. These are the other terminologies that we use. It includes not only bathing, but also drinking the waters. But here, inhaling is missing, but interesting, drinking is included. And there is another interesting definition that it does not include whirlpool baths, hydrotherapy, and it should be differentiated from hydrotherapy, where emphasis is on the plain waters or not natural mineral water. And here we see related terms like aquatic therapy, health resorts, and mineral waters, which are the other concepts that we very often use during daily balneological activities. And if I try to define balneology in a more comprehensive and current way, I should say it is the science of therapeutic use of balneological natural sources, assets or springs, as well as artificial agents, products or remedies, mineral thermal waters, colloids, and gases in general. In our balneological activities, we use many balneological expressions, sometimes in English, sometimes in our languages. We say health resort, thermal resort, and Russians and Germans say kurort. English says spa. The Americans, when Americans say spa, it is something different, not balneological. We have therme, thermal, therme, bath, bain, baile, bath, all related to bathing. I continue. We have in these places rehabilitation therapy clinics, physical therapy clinics, special spa, thermal hospitals, balneals. Olga, how do you call Tekirgo Sanatorium? But you also use balneal sanatorium or something.
And rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Both stick together.
In Banja Koviljača, you have special hospital, such a. Yeah. So this is the medical or healthcare part. And the terminology of the therapy, we say spa therapy, cranotherapy, thermal therapy, balneological treatment, hydroponic therapy or hydrotherapy, and so on. And I continue. Thermal cure centers, thermal station, thermal, balneario, Kurmitar house. So there is a mixture of terminology in different languages. I used to see this abundance of the definition is a problem, but now I don't see anymore. I think if we write an article, we should precisely determine or define or describe the elements of the therapy. In most publications, you can hardly see about the program of the treatment, which is a problem. And in that case, you put as we say, you put in the same box the apples and the pears. And what about the physician or doctor who works in this field? Is he or she a physician, medical hydrologist, thermal doctor, or balneologist? Well, in 1965, Evers, he was one of the greatest balneologists in the world at times. And this is his publication asking the future of balneologists. Are there in this room anyone who called himself balneologist? No one.
I am. Because when I started the program of specialization, don't say how many years ago, I started as balneophysiotherapy. And the part of balneal medicine were very important, such important that 1 month we have a stage in a thermal station for drinking cure. So we've learned about drinking cure, and another month in another thermal station for balneotherapy, for external cure. So I always said proud, but sometimes I think it's a little bit of vanity when I say about myself, I am balneologist.
Yeah. So the question is, where have all those balneologists come? I'm a balneologist. Yeah, I'm not a dinosaur. And I'm proud of being a balneologist. I'm proud of being a physician, of course, in the first line. But I'm a medical balneologist. And we should reinvent that who are dealing with balneology are balneologists. To make it more understandable, spa physician versus balneologist. Spa physician is used to be described as a physician who works at health resort and dealing with cranotherapy, spa therapy, thermal, who has a thermal medicine praxis. But balneologist is the one who does this as a spa physician, but doing also medical services in anywhere, using balneological treatments and practicing medical balneology. So we have the concepts of spa therapy versus balneological treatments. And spa therapy is being applied at a health resort with natural, local, authentic balneological agents. But balneological treatments can be practiced at home or in place of residence with balneological products. I am going fast. Here I try to list the differences between spa therapy and balneological therapy. And I'm not going too much into the details, but we should make this distinction between, in a classical way, traditional way, the spa thermal cranotherapy concept, and on the other hand, in the daily routine of our medical practice, using balneological products. I may make an analogy with physical therapy. In physical therapy can be practiced everywhere. Of course, at the same time in the health resorts or spas. So we should more move into the real life of healthcare and medicine, not only in the spas, but in the usual healthcare services, facilities, hospitals, clinics, and so on. And of course, by the patients at home. So to make it more understandable, we have the terminology of thermal medicine, medical science developed and practiced in health resorts for prevention, curation, rehabilitation, and by using natural balneological therapeutics at these healthcare facilities. And recently we have been talking about too much about the thermal tourism, but this time it is more touristical activity than the medical activity. Thermal recreations, holidays, and travel to and stay at thermal resorts, cruise, and so on. So we should make this distinction between the thermal medicine and thermal tourism. And medical balneology is the medical science of natural balneological agents and remedies, namely waters, mats, and gases, and balneological treatments, bathing, drinking, inhaling, practiced at usual facilities of healthcare system. And if we may say we are going to have a cosmetic balneology, cosmetics and beauty products by using balneological agents, remedies, and factors, and they are produced and manufactured by the companies. They are products that are being manufactured like waters, mats, spheroids, clays, gases, minerals, salt crystals, tablets, and so on. And in fact, balneology in this crossroads, if you come in a crossroad of four like this, which one you should follow? As a medical person, I should follow the medical path. But if I follow another road without losing my identity as a medical person, it's okay. I am still a physician. So I could imagine a better future for medical balneology, foresee or hope. Well, first of all, it should be recognized and accepted as a major scientific field discipline of mainstream medicine, supported by current scientific research and high technology. I think in this room, all should agree with this description. And we should have a medical specialty status. And at least in the European Union of Medical Specialties, UMS, and there should be a balneology section and board. In the UMS, European Medical Societies, European Medical Specialties Association, General Assembly, balneology is now, as they call it, joint multi-functional committee, which includes rheumatologists, physical therapy and rehabilitationists, dermatologists, and orthopedics. So this is a very important progress in the way to be recognized as a medical specialty. And of course, then we will need a core training curriculum, accreditation practices, and good clinical practices. And old story, we still need a worldwide consensus on standard terminology, clear definitions and concepts. This is an ongoing process. And of course, integration to current undergraduate and postgraduate medical education, and inclusion in healthcare treatment and rehabilitation services, and also in the national healthcare insurance systems. I thank you very much for your.
And now I have the pleasure to introduce Professor Antonella Fioravanti from Italy. And she has now to be presented, as all of us know, is important apportation to balneology.
This. Okay. Good morning to everyone, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, and a special thanks to Konstantin and to my friends, Olga Sordu, the new president of the FinTech. Today, I like to share with you my opinions, my reflection, and some suggestions about the role of scientific research for the development of a new or a modern balneology. This is my disclosure. Okay, as you can see in this slide, balneotherapeutic treatments today represent one of the most important complementary therapy for traditional diseases such as rheumatological, dermatological, respiratory, gastrointestinal, or gynecological diseases in many European countries, as well as in Turkey, in Japan, in China, or in Israel. But despite its long history and popularity, the role of balneotherapy in modern medicine is still the subject of debate. Why? Why? Because one of the critical points concerns the lack of scientific evidence. Then, I would like to start with this question: what is the situation of scientific research in balneology today? In this slide, you can see an important, in my opinion, an important paper published about the evaluation of the quantity and quality of scientific publication linked to the waters therapy using the web science of database. The authors use a large number of terms, hydrotherapy, balneotherapy, spa therapy, etc. And they examine the data interval from 2020 to 2021. The results showed an increasing trend in the number of published paper in the field, in the topic of balneotherapy from 2020 to 2021. This is due to different considerations. First, the growing interest among physicians in natural therapies over time. Second, the progressive inclination among academic journal, and in particular, journal with impact factors, to publish studies focusing on water treatments. And the last but not the least, the better quality of scientific papers on the topic of balneotherapy. In the number of published papers, we have an increase of paper of a manuscript on preclinical studies, on basic research. What is this? Preclinical studies on animal models or in cell culture allow us to understand the mechanism of action of active components of mineral waters. They reduce the probability of a bias due to the psychological factors that can invalidate the result obtained in human clinical trials. Naturally, we have to take into consideration an important disadvantage, because we should be considered with the caution this model, since the changes that occur in preclinical model do not necessarily reflect the human condition. Few studies using animal model because the experimental difficulties and because the economical problems. The use of animal model require is very expensive. Then, in the last year, we found a different model to simplify our study on the mechanism of the action of the balneotherapeutic treatment. And then we use a lot of in vitro study that are simplified biological systems, which allow us to evaluate the effect or the mechanism of action of mechanical factors, such as, for example, hydrostatic pressure, of the different components of mineral waters and mats, such as inorganic mineral elements, organic friction, and the microbiome or macrobial communities. We have a good example. Because through preclinical studies, in particular through in vitro study, we explain, for example, the beneficial effect of sulfur water, especially in the form of hydrogen sulfide. We have two main experts in this field, such as Professor Carbaco and Professor Maraver. Also, by in vitro study, we showed the anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, immunomodulant effects of the thermal spring microbiome or the regenerative effect. This is an example with the mineral water of Comano Terme. Furthermore, in vitro study, we can use different kind of cell, of model, depend on the aims of our study. For example, to study skin disease and the effect of mineral water on skin disease, we use keratinocytes, normal keratinocytes or psoriatic keratinocytes. To study the effects of balneotherapy on musculoskeletal conditions such as osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, or rheumatoid arthritis, we can use fibroblast-like synoviocytes or chondrocyte, or, for example, osteoblast in cultures. Now, let's go to another point of my presentation. I think that scientific research allows us to identify new diseases with a relevant epidemiological and socioeconomic impact that could potentially benefit from balneotherapy. Among these, obesity and overweight. Why? Obesity is a disease with high prevalence and with unexpected increased prevalence for the future. As you can see, the percentage of prevalence in the period 2020-2035. Furthermore, obesity often is associated with a lot of comorbidity, of important comorbidity, such as mental, cardiovascular, coagulation, skin, osteoarticular disease, pulmonary disease, and metabolic disorders. Then, in the last year, we have initial some pilot studies about the efficacy, the possible efficacy, the possible useful of balneotherapy in the management of obesity and overweight, especially when balneotherapeutic treatment are combined with diet, with exercise, or educational programs, as well as some preliminary evidence demonstrated the possible effect of balneotherapy for type 2 diabetes or for metabolic diseases. Perhaps due to an important effect, an important action of mineral waters of mud pack on the secretion of adipocytokines by the white adipose tissue. Let's try to go to another topic. Balneotherapy for sleep disorders. Over the past decade, the prevalence of sleep disorders have been increasing across the world with a negative impact on quality of life, social aspects, economic performance, and human health. Preliminary study demonstrated the possible help by balneotherapeutic treatment in the management of the quantity or quality of sleep disorders. This probably is due to different mechanisms of action of balneotherapy, such as, for example, the decrease of interleukin-6 or the modulation of serotonin secretion by balneotherapeutic treatment. And the effect on serotonin secretion is probably the main, mm, the main important mechanism that explain the effect of balneotherapy for mental health condition. As you can see, the data from the global Barden's disease 2019 showed an exponential increase of the prevalence of mental disorders. Mental disorders is an umbrella with different conditions such as anxiety, such as depression, personality disorders, eating disorders, or, for example, the mood diseases. So we have initial evidence of a possible intervento, of a possible useful of different balneotherapic treatment in mitigate, please, just mitigate such symptom of mental distress. Finally, I would like to draw your attention about a new entity known with the different term, long COVID or post-COVID or post-acute COVID. It's a very complex syndrome with an heterogeneous symptoms because it's involved different organ and system. Okay, we suppose that balneotherapic treatments could help in the management of this complex condition. However, at the moment, we haven't any controlled clinical trial in this very, very interesting and increasing disease syndrome. And to conclude my presentation or my opinion, my suggestion, I would like to highlight that scientific research is a driving force for the economy of spa industry sector too, and for countries that have a considerable number of thermal centers. And having shared my opinion, my suggestion, my meeting, I say to you, thank you for your time and your attention.
Now the next speaker will be a pre-recorded registration. So I ask my colleagues to help me technically to have these presentations. Also, I have to mention that all the participants who want some water in the back of this room, there are waters in the fridge, so you can ask for water. And my colleagues will start the presentation and will roll up the presentation.
Kind of invitation what's the ISMH Congress should be on. So I thank the organizing and sending meetings. And as the rules, the Congress presidents, the Romanian Society of Cardiology Foundation, all speakers and participants of this congress. Unfortunately, due to many reasons, it is impossible for me to be in physical presence in Romania. So I will use this today's presentation. It's PowerPoint is the first ISMH conference organized after the death of our dear friend, Professor Ben. Please allow me to let here his very modest contribution to this event. Now, starting my presentation, we all know that there is an enormous diversity in thermal medicine within Europe. Paleology has many different approaches depending on the country, their different traditions, local aspects, except for not accepted by medical community, medical and non-medical use, therapeutic versus technical activity, different education programs, and different certification rules. Also, an enormous diversity of facilities, equipment, professionals, and operating models. And inclusive, we have different legal aspects varying from country to country. So, we continue a group of paleologists that integrate the PRF section of the UN almost 2 decades ago, define a strategy to create a European committee within this organization. The main goal of this committee was to get common standard definitions, wide consensus on all the practice and all the approach of technology, with a specific goal of leading to European paleology board that would as a consequence an academic and clinical certification, which under our point of view was essential for good quality and practice. For this goal, we knew that a consensus at the European level was necessary for scientific, educational, organization, and medical care, as well as the need to establish common policy for health in Europe. For that, the first consensus conference was organized in Szeged and back in April 2005. Was due to the idea that Professor Tamar Banner had coordinated that important meeting. 3 years later, in the 36th conference of the ISMH that took place, we decided to invite Dr. Bernard May, the new ISMH Secretary General at the time, who advised us not to go direct for the proposal of the creation of a committee, but start as asked for a paleology certification in our section. So that's what we did. The ISMH board that year decided to start a specific cooperation with the PRF section and UMS to go for this goal. So in 2005, the task force of paleology was created. And since 12 years ago, we arrived to this third division of paleology. The specific goal of the European diploma was then start this process for European standards, European fellowship, and certification. In 2014, as seventh Congress of Portuguese Society of Medical Hydrology, we found the water. It took place in beautiful palace of Busan. And here we have seven distinguished cardiologists that signed that agreement. You can see that here go by, and we are now the condition that time, 10 years ago. Many other countries in the beginning also signed this agreement. And started the cooperation between UMS, ISMH, and the European Union. So the field was prepared for the final proposition of the creation of a multidisciplinary joint committee in UMS. What was done by Professor Paolo Zampolini in October of 2022, 2 years ago, in Athens, Greece. Here you have a picture and then presentation of the proposal. Professor Zampolini explained what is medical pathology, the principles, the intervention, the modality, and also the indications and contraindications. He also explained what was the different situation of cardiology in the several countries of the European Union. In some countries as an independent competence or specialty, in others including independent specialties. And he also point why we think that we really need this multidisciplinary joint committee for medical pathology in UMS, where clear definitions of cardiology, where the standardization of the technology to include the recent scientific evidence and development and the potential outcomes, mainly all the scientific development on cognitive actions with other specialties, with the better introduction to research and technology, and to define a training curriculum. Finally, on April 2023, UMS Council approved the creation of the multidisciplinary joint committee. It was handed out an historical day. Just let me finish with some comments about the development of this committee. Currently, we are gathering the different sections of the specialties of UMS that will integrate this committee. Physical-based rehabilitation, rheumatology, neurology, orthopedics, dermatology, pediatrics, family, orthopedics. We will define together with UMS Council who will coordinate this committee through the action plan and to start immediately the activity of the law. For that, we need 2 delegates per country that should have an official recognition by the National Medical Organization of its own country. So we appeal to all governments to start this process in their own country. We also start the European School of Cardiology that is already approved, and we need the first experience. 2 years ago, we started this summer school that will take place every year with a program mixing virtual and presentation, physical presentation for the practice of cardiology techniques in the school. We have all support of our university. And next year, we will see that will be supported by the request of ISMH, UMS section. We will send you all an update file with all the program, teachers, equipment, transportation, and accommodation. It will take place by Zoom platform and presentially for training 2 weekends, or 1 weekend, or 1 week, we don't know yet, and Shabbos, which is very convenient because it only is 1 hour and a half only from the airport, transportation or minibus, all trips on island with the accommodation and meals that will be offered by the local company. Here we have the powers now. Another picture. That will be not here school, but we will visit these facilities. We designed and built a special pedagogic balneario in Pidago. We planned this with the architect that is here on your left, architect Loreiro, and a team of engineers with this market. We built it on a former railway station, and as you can see, we have excellent facilities for teaching biology. These are the first European students from Erasmus, and they got the diploma from the University. Our intention is to enhance that diploma for a European level with collaboration of different universities for all our campuses that are here. We have other facilities that can also collaborate in this program, and of course, this is really possible to do in other countries. In Termas de São Jorge, we have already the preparation of a training program at the European level, and also in Luzon. Here you have an aspect of a pool designed in the beginning of the 20th century by Gustav Eiffel. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. I wish you all a good welcome.
We thank to Petro Cantista for his contribution. And now it is my pleasure to announce our colleague Olga Surdu for the presentation of what can do balneal medicine for non-communicable diseases. Olga Surdu and her colleagues.
Thank you very much. I confess that I was thinking a lot if to touch this subject of non-communicable disease, because this is not a topic for medical hydrology. This is a topic for public health. But taking into account, considering that the logo of the Congress was evidence-based balneology, and as you could see in the previous presentation, I asked myself, what for evidence-based balneology? Because no one want to recognize us. So for me, this is a key problem. But we, as the practitioner in this medical field, we deals every day with non-communicable disease. All of them are non-communicable because, first of all, infectious disease that are communicable disease are contraindicated to balneal course, and also acute disease, acute phase of some disease are contraindicated. So we can think that all our pathology is non-communicable. And all this type of patient and their pathology have long duration, need long time treatment, and they are with long time consequences. This is our characteristic of our patient. Public health is based on evidence-based medicine, is a mandatory condition for the policymaker to use evidence-based medicine. Balneology, we can call every of us in our terms. Medical hydrology, balneology, balneotherapy, medical spa, and so on. Produced in the last 20 years at least a huge amount of good quality studies on different types of pathology that are subject for the non-communicable disease. More than this, day after day, hydrobalneotherapy is more accessible and covered by National Health Insurance Service. So another joint point between balneology and public health. And balneology, medical hydrology integrated in health system, open and holistic and comprehensive and integrative approach of non-communicable disease. So if at the beginning I was thinking they will kill me because I speak on a topic that is not of balneal topics, now I think I will survive. It is clear, as I said before, they are not communicable disease. They, non-communicable disease, they are the result of a mixture, a combination of genetical, pathological, environmental, and behavior factors. And this we know and we work with this. But non-communicable disease kill worldwide every year 41 million people. That is a huge quantity, from which 15 million people die prematurely. It means before the age of 17, between 30 and 69 years of age. So if you kill me, I am a casualty in this cohort. It's a problem not only in our Telmar station or in our country. It's a problem all over the world. And in European Union, non-communicable disease represent 80% of disease burden and leading causes of, attention, avoidable premature death. Considering the increased number of aged population, human and financial costs of non-communicable disease are high and expected to be higher, expected to grow. It doesn't matter the reference we look for, they are considered many times, many types of non-communicable disease, but four are the more numerous. It is about cardiovascular disease, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, and diabetes, including here the nephropathy and other complication of diabetes. Speaking of list, there are many lists of non-communicable disease. This one with four main non-communicable disease, let's say, is the short list, but they are listed in different entities of 10 non-communicable disease, of 20 non-communicable disease. And what you see with a small letter written is an extract for 50, the list of 50 main important non-communicable disease. It's so important, this aspect, that recently, I dare to say, in the 16th November last year, in European Parliament, they presented a report on non-communicable disease. When I saw this report, I tried to look on it because it's something very, very long. I found out the same pathology that I presented the previous slide, but more enlarged. So cardiovascular disease, first place. Chronic respiratory disease, very important. Neurological disorders, very important. Autoimmune diseases, it's also important. Rheumatic, musculoskeletal disease, they are present in our day-to-day medical life. In December 2021, the European Union launched the Healthier Together, the European Non-Communicable Disease Initiative for 22 to 27 period to support European country to improve the citizen health, to reduce the burden of the major non-communicable disease, to identify and implement effective policies and action, and they established to work together with United Nations and World Health Organization to reduce premature mortality produced by non-communicable disease. This reduction have to be with 1/3 up to 2030. But World Health Organization also is involved, let's say, in this concept. They consider the key components of the response to this issue is detection, screening, and early treatment of non-communicable disease. And there is a global action plan for prevention and control of non-communicable disease that was up to 2020 and was extended for 2030. So you see, 2030 become an important year. Also, World Health Organization have a department of non-communicable disease, rehabilitation and disability. And this is another connection with our activity. And also it does exist World Rehabilitation Alliance, that is a network of stakeholders whose mission is to support and implement the Rehabilitation 2030 initiative. United Nations is committed to coordinating international cooperation on health issues, including non-communicable disease. At the level of United Nations was launched a political declaration, and then the General Assembly adopted an agenda, and the United Nations recognized health as a precondition for and an outcome of sustainable human development to the 2030 agenda. As I said previously, we work in this field, and everything you see on the right part of my slide, I dare to call them models, because everything has every type of pathology has a pattern. How we treat, how we approach, and all of them benefits for health insurance, more or less according to the national legislation, and it could be happened in a thermal station. So what can do, because I presented some models. My answer to the question, what for the so much science for non-communicable disease, because no one admit us as a, let's say, equal partners of dialogue in health issue, and as a specialist, I was trying to think that we don't speak to who matter. We have to address to the health policy maker, and the precondition of that dialogue be of good quality and they hear us is to use their documents, their glossary of terms, because we have to be conscient. We, almost all of us here, we are medical doctors and we understand each other, but we speak with other specialists at such a high level, a national level or international level. They are economists, they are engineers, they are other type of specialists, not medical doctors. So I consider that adhere to activities of United Nations, World Health Organization, or European Union to implement effective policies and action to reduce the social burden of non-communicable disease is a way to do something for this topic. Also, it's important to advocate with the means of evidence-based medicine in front of health policy maker for prevention. Potential of medical hydrology field is huge. We speak all levels of prevention, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Also, we have to advocate for holistic and integrative approach of treatment of this type of pathology. We can emphasize on non-pharmacologic pain management using natural therapeutic factor and the improvement on the quality of life of our patient suffering of non-communicable disease. It was not an exercise of rhetoric what I try to present it, but is an invitation to reflection, and the next step is to pass to action in this field. Speaking with policymaker, using their glossary of term and presenting ourselves. So it's up to us to push our idea further or to continue to produce good quality science and to be content of this, and here to stop our activities. So it's time to pass to act. This is my invitation. Thank you.
10 minutes for general discussions. 10 minutes. 10 minutes for discussions, and after that we have to go to the opening ceremony. I have to mention that the opening ceremony is in front of this in this sanatorium, so over the street. So we have to go to there for 5 minutes, something like that. So we have 10 minutes for discussions, and after that we can go to the opening ceremony.
You ask questions?
Only using the microphone.
Thank you all. Is this? Okay. Yeah, thank you everybody for the presentation.
It's okay.
It's okay? Okay.
Yeah, I hear online.
I have maybe a two component question. One, it seems that we have in our industry, in our field, many preliminary small pilot studies, and we have a society of here, international society, to maybe support those initial studies into becoming more full-fledged studies. So I think this is a call for our society to think how we can support the production of higher quality study. But I think the question I want maybe is more for discussion point is, and it was brought up in a little bit by everybody, this idea that we can create very good science and have our scientific concepts very well developed within our our field and our group here. How can we better communicate our knowledge to the general public to create more a demand from patients to have balneology treatment as part of their care? Because, for instance, most people I mentioned, I'm a balneologist, the first thing they say is, what is balneology? So we have all this great science on balneology, but maybe it is lost in translation to the public. Maybe you can comment on how we can improve this.
If we can start from here.
Thank you, Marcos. First of all, I would like to mention that scientific activities and publications nearly at the moment are being carried out of this population here. And this population is not presented in ISMH. This is, in my opinion, the first problem that we are having with. And this causes two results. One is we are not well aware of what the scientific activities out of our circle. Second, the authors, the scientists that do these studies and research are not very well informed about what balneology is. We have not close contact with them. And in my opinion, this is, for instance, in this room, we are still too few. And we don't have the representatives of such out of balneological circle people and scientists. Regarding the, to be more informative of the population, maybe you are having this impression living in the United States. But your point to include or demand for the people, for the population, to include balneological treatments in the daily health care. In fact, this is the most European countries is the situation, but not in UK, in USA, and some other countries as well. These maybe a few comments.
Pass the microphone.
Professor Rocca?
The issue of Dr. Koplin is a very important one. And we publish papers, not a lot. First, there is not a lot of evidence in the field of balneology. In these last 20 years, about 200 papers in English-speaking with impact factor journals. And many reviews, which is a paradox with so few original randomized control trials. It's very difficult to transmit the message of an efficient balneology to our colleagues, to our academic colleagues of different branches of medicine. But we have also another level which is very important. It's the public. In countries where balneology is existing, a lot of persons are considering balneology as an important treatment. And the communication has to be made toward the scientists, from the scientist, but it is also has to be made to the public. And the best to communicate with the public are specialists of information. And we need to have very good contacts with journalists which are involved in health problems. I will give you a short figure. In France, in 2004, there was 400,000 and 50,000 curists everywhere, every year. When we begin to publish good papers, particularly randomized controlled trial, and after the first of this trial was author are present in the room, Dr. Forestier and Dr. François, which was a trial dermatosis about knee osteoarthritis, which enrolled more than 400 patients. It still remains the biggest randomized controlled trial implemented in balneology in the world. A very good communication was made towards the public through press conferences. And it was the same for other trials. And we reached more than 600,000 curists 10 years later. So this is a very important issue. And the policymakers have to consider the public because they are also the citizens who vote to the pollings and make sure or unsure their personal situation. This is a general remark. A second remark, we are preparing now a short publication summarizing the main point of evidence to be communicated either to our colleague scientists and also to more large public. Thank you for your question.